East Tennessee comic fans gather tonight in honor of Stan Lee. The famed comic book author is credited with creating superheroes, including the Incredible Hulk and Spider-Man. His death still shaking the comic community, and reporter Shannon Smith spoke with some of his biggest fans who say he shaped their lives. Shannon?
Brandon, right now, Knoxville comic lovers are gathered at Central Cinema in Stan Lee's honor. His legacy is long loved in East Tennessee, and that includes the grandson of the creator of DC Comics, Captain Marvel, who lives in Seymour.
Stan Lee.
Are you Tony's stank?
The face of Marvel Comics passed away Monday, leaving countless people shocked and saddened by his death.
He's a person that's meant a lot in our lives. Like, I grew up reading Marvel Comics.
William Mahaffey with Central Cinema arranged a movie night remembering Lee for his biggest fans.
I've always felt like a personal connection to those comics in particular.
Many feel the same way about the golden era of comics, including Dennis Lamson in Seymour, who grew up in his grandfather's art studio.
He did the outline and let me fill in the black areas.
His grandpa was C.C. Beck,
And it's autographed by my grandfather.
the creator of DC Comics' Captain Marvel, the world's mightiest mortal.
Sorry about your window, but you're welcome for not getting robbed. Oh, hey, what's up? I'm a superhero.
Lamson has always had an appreciation for comics like Stan Lee, who his grandpa had met.
I don't know if they were closely associated, if they were old friends. All I know is this is his personal scrapbook. There's a picture of him sitting with Stan Lee.
This was at Comic-Con in Miami in the 70s. Two great comic writers sitting side by side, both gone but not forgotten.
There's a whole slew of up-and-coming comic book artists that will carry on his tradition, I believe.
A tradition that's become a movie giant, with Marvel putting out new superhero movies every year, which they'll continue to do in Stan Lee's honor.
You know, I guess one person can make a difference.
Stan Lee was 95. So far, his funeral plans have not quite yet been announced. Beth, Brandon.
All right, Shannon Smith with impact of his legacy here in East Tennessee.